Hello, good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News on 3FM 92.7. My name is Beatrice Adu. The news is also live on Kasmi 107.1 FM and across the world at 3news.com. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. This afternoon, massive fire sweeps through human settlement within Tema Industrial Enclave, destroying over 500 wooden structures. We'll bring you the latest. Also coming up, institutional food suppliers welcome government's decision to hand back to the buffer stock company the supply of grains for senior high schools. This afternoon, we will engage some members of the association. And much later, Ghana National Coalition Against Illegal Mining demands immediate investigation and prosecution of current and former officials accused of involvement in illegal activities. Thank you very much for joining us now. Over 500 wooden structures have been destroyed after a massive fire swept through a settlement behind Ferro Fabric Limited in the Tema Heavy Industrial Area. The blaze, which reportedly started late on Wednesday, the 18th of June 2025, reduced multiple structures used for both domestic and commercial purposes to ashes. The Ghana National Fire Service managed to douse the flame after battling it for hours. Our reporter Christian Yale is following this, and he'll be joining us very shortly. Ahead of that, in a swift policy shift, the government of Ghana is partially removing the power of headmasters to manage school feeding in secondary schools. The NDC, in the run-up to the 2024 general elections, promised, among other things, to decentralize school feeding and make heads of the respective SHS responsible for procuring food items for their institutions. The policy came into effect after the change of government. However, some 6 months into the new administration, the government says the National Buffer Stock Company will now handle the supply of grains, whilst the headmasters will continue to supply perishable items. This decision comes after several Ghana Education Service reports revealed that students were being served poor quality meals. The Minister for Education, Haruna Idrisu, disclosed the policy review at a meeting on Wednesday.
Manifesto to get this back to headmasters, bursars, and others to do it in order to keep the local economy going. But it appears that at many levels, the quantities and quality of the food is just not good enough. Government is considering a reversal of the policy, but at least for perishables and others, up to 40% of that provision will still be provided by the Conference of Heads of Assisted Secondary School, whilst we get a rule for the Ghana buffer stock and then the Ghana Commodity Exchange to deal with grains and others. But for the present, what is important is timely, quality delivery of food. Since December, that is what we have done. I have at least almost through GS released more than $500 million to them. But we are not satisfied with the quality of the food they are sharing. In fact, one evening, I had to, I'm not necessarily a WhatsApp person, so the president had to ask me for my WhatsApp, so I'm now on WhatsApp. So I went getting some WhatsApp to receive a poor quality gari and palm nut served by a school. That is not acceptable. And in terms of quantities, I've even asked the internal auditor of the Ministry of Education to move around the country and give me an audit report. We are engaging with CHAS so that we share it. They will do perishables, then buffer stock and commodity exchange can do the grains in the right quantities. So we are negotiating and discussing it with CHAS. It is not necessarily our wish, but we have a duty to ensure timely, adequate availability of the food.
And you heard the Minister for Education, Haruna Idrisu. Well, the National Institutional Suppliers have welcomed the policy change. You would recall that the group, which hitherto supplied food items to the National Buffer Stock Company, had expressed grave concerns about the decision to decentralize food supply. Let's speak to the National Spokesperson for Food Suppliers Association, Kweku Amedome. Good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good afternoon, my dear, for having me. How are you doing?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for asking. How do you react to the government's decision to return grain procurement responsibilities to Buffer Stock, Limited, after initially assigning them to the schools?
Let me, first of all, say good afternoon to your listeners out there. And thank you for having me on this, your program. Yes, of course, if you ask how we will react, you always, if you follow our argument since the inception of this government, when they made the proposal to decentralize the feeding, we were against it, and because the reasons for which they wanted to decentralize, we said, were not tenable. It could not solve the problem or the mischief it sought to cure. One of the reasons they were intending to decentralize was quality and quantity of food. They were the main reasons. And so we told them that giving money to headmasters to procure food items did not mean decentralization, and it was not going to solve the problem. It was not going to solve the problem. We made it known to government that what the issue was lack of funding. If we could make funding available, that after every 3 months we pay suppliers for timely delivery, and then we strengthen the delivery centers so that the headmasters, the beggars, and those people who are empowered to take delivery of the food items from the suppliers, we should ensure that whoever is manning those centers, they are strengthened enough to detect efficiency in the food deliveries, quantity, and compromises that are associated with the delivery of the food items. And so the government still went on and dealt with headmasters. So if today Minister of Education is saying that he's not happy about the quality and the quantity, it means that the intended reasons why they decentralized the feeding is not achievable. And so, in fact, we've had discussions yesterday. We've had calls to meet with the management of the Buffer Stock, and we were made to believe that, in fact, they have reverted everything to Buffer Stock and DCS. And it was a welcoming news for us because all we needed as suppliers was timely payment. So if I go to Ejura or Atebubu to procure my items, and it is 3 months government bills to pay, I should be able to be paid on that time so that I can always go back and get the food into the schools. So we're talking about timely payment and ensure that the things that are given to us, we are able to pay our creditors.
So what you're essentially saying is that you believe this new approach will best fit what we need to do?
It will definitely best serve, and also for the delivery centers, I would urge government to send men or women to the centers to be checking the invoices and they're checking the quantity and quality that is being brought to the centers. And then timely payment. If government fails to pay on time, it will definitely bounce back on the same footing. Let me make the point clear that the reason why we are supporting this is we understand the government is taking 3% out of the GET fund to take care of the free SHS policy. I think this is laudable. The reason why headmasters, allowing them to continue is not sustainable is that government needs to cost 200 million Ghana cedis every 2 weeks to be able to sustain the free SHS program. And where is government going to sustain it? It's not possible. With the suppliers, we raise our own funding and get into the business of supplying to the centers. And then government takes 90 days, sometimes 6 months, sometimes 1 year, in some other cases 2 years. We were made to hold on. We supported all this policy. So if the government now decides that, okay, they are no longer going to deal with headmasters because of what they themselves have discovered, and they are making public pronouncement about it, we can say nothing more but to welcome it.
Beyond what you said, what other recommendations would you give the government as regards improving the whole system?
The whole system is we want the suppliers to be part of the pricing policy. In the previous administration, there were a procurement board that was in charge of the pricing. And there were a lot of fraudulent dealings in terms of pricing. The PPA board will give a different price. The agencies managing the policy will give a different price. There were GCS and buffer stock. The prices of buffer stock were different from the prices of GCS. That was a challenge because the same supplier who does supply at the GCS are the same suppliers who does at the buffer stock. And so if all these things can be looked into, and then prompt payment is the key. I mean, nothing will stop this from success.
We'll have to end it here. Thank you very much, Annie Heather Kwaku Amedume. He speaks for the Food Suppliers Association Ghana. Some 11 minutes past the hour of 12. When we come back, we'll bring you the latest on the fire that has destroyed some 500 wooden structures in Tema.
Ghana. It's a new year and Bills Microcredit is here to support your dreams. If you're not working but want to start a business, don't let money stop you. With just your Ghana card, you can get a loan to turn your ideas into reality. Already running a business? Need more capital? Or are you a salary worker looking for extra funds? Bills offers fast and easy loans with no collateral, no deposit, and no SUSI savings required. Wherever you are, whatever you need, Bills makes it happen. Call Bills Microcredit today. Call 0596 920 833 or 0302 200 390 and get started. Bills is licensed and regulated by the Bank of Ghana. Bills, financing your needs. Terms and conditions apply.
Freezer, yeah, diaba. Adama for diaba. Hey, freezer. Adama. Akwafo menhia Adama metimoso ma sorry kanino obobo mu ase a adwofrafra nuo bia mienu miensa na se nan atene wotimi di apase Adama fo adwena kwafo ho ahu se ye de aduro ba kope e be chifu ye bia technology akofo freezer ba wenku a eno anto benya 15 latest no ahwiegum watia no ahwiegum o de basia fu ye bia ni o ba basia bio ekoti se obetimo no nemu ye sure say mention tasie nemu asena for na no freezer umpa we na apade freezer
basia ebe so do so ama amoni age
omuti na me wasika omuti na me di me nyina duru bia so mu dum Adama with that Adama no kuya Adama you can't resist
Ubenya Adama West Africa for edwe bi wo baby biara ye ton kraye ho edwu afi kayo na kenkan enchoya ewo edre ho.
And you're still here on the Midday News on 3FM 92.7. Thank you very much for staying. Now, two committees known as Enforcement and Sensitization Committees comprising security operatives and other stakeholders to combat the sale and usage of illicit drugs in the northern region have been inaugurated by the National Security Liaison Office. The formation of these committees has become necessary following the surge in drug use and trafficking in the northern region. Let's connect with my colleague in the northern part of the country, Christopher Mwako, who's been following this for us. Chris, if you can hear me, just paint a picture for us how worrying the incident of drug abuse is in that part of the country.
Yes, so Beatrice, you realize that in recent past, reports have indicated that the northern region has become a hub for trafficking and abuse of drugs by the youth. And it is also reported that more than half, close to half the population of the youth in the region, one way or the other, abuse drugs. And so these stakeholders have in the past instituted some measures to, as it were, curb the menace of illicit drug abuse in the region. The king of Dagbon, Ndanyana Bukari II, constituted a task force that has over the period been working with the support of the security agencies to clamp down on the trafficking and use of drugs in the region. Unfortunately, this has not yielded the needed results, and so the Northern Regional Security Council, together with the National Security Liaison Office here in the region, have teamed up to ensure that they form some form committees to drive home the fight against the abuse of illicit drugs in the region. And so they have constituted these committees, and they are going to start work with immediate effect. Let's take a listen to what some of the stakeholders have been saying about the use of illicit drugs in the region.
It's severe. It's very, very severe. I think Northern Region has become the epicenter of the consumption of these illicit drugs. And it's severe. It's terribly severe. And I think it's a national security concern. It's beyond the public health concern. So we require everybody aboard. Concertment of various stakeholders. They should put their expertise together so that we can all come together and suppress this menace or reduce the rate at which this menace is chopping into our society. Because the future leaders, the youth, vulnerably, it is our youth who are involved. And as they are involved, we need to find a way to educate them. We need to find a way to protect, or we need to find a way to sensitize them over this illicit drugs.
Is that each one of us should understand that any person caught in this action, there is no way for any person to intervene. The law has to be given the chance to do its work. So we've all agreed to that. And I think as part of our way forward, there will be a kind of undertaking by all the stakeholders. We all sign.
Christopher, aside from these stakeholders we just heard, what has been the reaction from the general populace regarding this initiative?
Yes, in the public domain, people are actually calling for stringent measures to combat the use of illicit drugs in the region. And so the general population is happy that not only the traditional authorities have taken this fight upon themselves, but security agencies and other stakeholders as well. One critical issue they are talking about has to do with the resources to sustain the work of these committees. But they are hoping that other institutions and organizations, including the National Security Ministry and the Interior Ministry, will support this drive.
Thank you very much, Christopher Mwako. He's our Northern Region correspondent. Now, the current mode of appointing metropolitan, municipal and district chief executives will soon be a thing of the past. The President, John Mahama, says that future MMDCEs may not be appointed in line with growing public demand for greater accountability in local governance. Addressing participants at an orientation and training program organized for MMDCEs on Wednesday, June 18, the President said that the current system of appointing MMDCEs could soon be replaced, depending on the outcome of the work of the Constitution Review Committee.
Therefore, I urge you to work with the chiefs and religious bodies in your districts and with civil society to restore the social contract with our people. The legitimacy and authority of the state must be felt not only in law, but in the lived experience of our people. MMDCs, you may be the last batch of MMDCs appointed. The National Review Committee is going round. I'm sure some of you would have been consulted, and it will present its recommendation in August this year. And one of the major items that has been canvassed is the election of DCs. There's no doubt that Ghanaians want their DCs elected. MMDC is elected. Several surveys have shown that they prefer to have your category of political officers elected. So you may be the last dinosaurs who are appointed. Those who succeed you might have to go through elections.
And you heard the President, John Mahama. Let's speak to Dr. Richard Fiadamo. He is President of a Chamber of Local Governance. Charlog, good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good afternoon.
Doc, this will not be the first time we'll be hearing this. How confident are you that that objective will be achieved, and really what will it take for it to happen?
Thank you very much. For me, I have no reason to doubt the President John Mahama on the next promises. I think that if you look at the NDC manifesto, they reiterated that if goals and they get power, they are going to elect MMDC. They also talked about the common fund giving 80%. So if I've seen that the common fund 80% has materialized, I have no reason to doubt the fact that MMDCs are going to be elected anytime soon.
Having made that point, though, the Constitution Review Committee is also expected to receive proposals on how to proceed with this. Where do we stand? Or let me personally ask you where you stand on this matter beyond what you said.
Oh, for me, election of MMDC is a welcome call. It should have happened 10, 15 years ago if you ask me. Because in 2016, the MPP and the NDC had in their manifestos that they were going to elect MMDC. The NDC was clear as to how it was going to go about it, albeit on non-partisan basis. The MPP unfortunately did not state anything, and when they rather want power, they wanted to make the local government system partisan. The reason why they wanted a referendum done to amend Article 55 Clause 3 of Ghana's Constitution, which became aborted. So their interest was actually not election of MMDC. They were rather focused on getting the local government system being made partisan, after which they were going to consider the election of MMDC. So if you want to elect MMDC in Ghana today, let's put the constitutional review aside. You just have to amend Article 243 Clause 1 of Ghana's Constitution. It is not an entrenched clause. You only need to take majority of parliamentarians voting in that direction. And then they also amend Article 246. I will get the opportunity to elect our chief executive. So if I see the zeal and the commitment of His Excellency the President, I have no doubt in my mind that it is going to happen, if not during his term, the early term of any government in 2029.
What would you say to the other concerns that it means we are over-politicizing our very local governance as well?
No, I don't agree with anybody who says that. If you are going to do election on a partisan basis, I don't know where the politicization is coming from. The fact of the matter is that Article 20 of Ghana's Constitution gives room for decentralization and local governance. The same Constitution asks that the central government will allocate 5% of the total revenue of the country to the district assembly's common fund. So it is an issue that is being the constitutional injunction. So it is being complied with. So I don't see how anybody will say the local government system is being politicized. If anybody will make that argument, then it was in 2019 when the then government wanted to do a referendum to amend Article 55 to make the local government system partisan. That did not happen, and we pray no government should come and say they want to make the local government system partisan, because that is not the way to go. It's about local development. If you recall, not too long ago, the then government went and bought equipment in the name of DRIP, District Road Improvement Program. Those equipment was meant for the district assembly. Another government comes and now is going to use it for something else. That is why we say that if you allow the local governance system to be run by partisan interest, then all the local development will become national development. I can tell you on authority, the needs of people in Madina, Adenta, Keman will not necessarily be the same as those who are in South Sudan, Nanton, and maybe Zebila. So that is why the framers of the 1992 Constitution saw it useful to make sure that we protect Article 55, the reason why they needed an entrance clause. So it is not about partisan politics at all. It is rather about effective decentralization and local governance and local development.
Thank you very much, Dr. Richard Fiadomo, President, Chamber for Local Governance. Let's return to our earlier story about some 500 wooden structures gutted by fire, and Christian Yale has been following the story. He joins us live on the line. Chris, that must be a major fire incident, but what more can you report from there?
Can I come again, please?
I was asking you what more you could report from there, bearing in mind that this could really be a major fire incident for that community, and there's wind in the phone. If you're able to reposition yourself so we're able to hear you properly.
All right. So I can tell you that, Beatrice, when you come here, this section of the Tema-heavy industrial area, you see that it is just a trail of destruction, buildings, shops that have been razed to the ground, and really nothing to salvage at all from here. Right now, when you get here, you see business owners, you see traders who are just
looking on, trying to get to understand how they are going to come out of this disaster that has dealt them a heavy blow. Beatrice, I can tell you that these are over 500 shops that are used for both commercial and local or domestic purposes. And you understand it when we talk about Tema and the kind of businesses or industries that are cited here. And these are some of the shops that get to supply a lot of the things that are being used. And so it is a big blow. It is a big issue here, a trouble for many of them. And also the fact that there are buildings here that are serving as residences for some of these people who live here and who stay here. And so that is the kind of situation that you find here as of yet. We know that officials of the Ghana National Fire Service are on scene currently, even as I talk to you, and they've been providing updates on the situation over the past few hours. And so that is the situation here.
Thank you very much, Christian Yale. But before you go, are you able to tell us whether fire personnel have been able to, identify the cause of this fire yet?
No, as of yet, according to the Ghana National Fire Service, the cause of the incident is not known yet. They do not know the cause of the incident yet, but they are still investigating it. But from residents around, we get to understand that some are attributing it to a gas that exploded. But until that is made official, we cannot get to know or speak to that effect. But what we know is that they say they are investigating it. We came to meet even officials from the Tema Metropolitan Assembly, as well as even officials from the National Disaster Management Organization, who are trying to get an appreciation of the number of persons who have been affected so that they can provide some relief items to them to that effect.
And aside from those whose structures have been burned, of course, we understand that some were used for residential purposes. Do you have information as regards whether or not there were casualties or injuries?
No, there were no casualties and no injuries. That is according to reports or confirmation that we've gotten from the Ghana National Fire Service. Although we've not been able to speak with them on record, on camera, and on tape, while on our way here, we had interactions with them and even on their pages, they've actually been providing details or updates on the incident so far. And they tell us that yes, indeed, we see the destruction that has taken place, yet there has not been any casualty, no injuries, and this is something that even the residents and the occupants of this area have indeed confirmed.
Thank you very much, Christian Yale, for bringing us that update. Now, the National Coalition Against Illegal Mining has called for the immediate arrest and prosecution of current and past officials as well as individuals allegedly involved in Galamsey activities. Addressing a news conference, the coalition called on the Mahama government to investigate Member of Parliament for Alwyn, Oscar Larbi, for his alleged Galamsey involvement. The group also said that efforts to tackle illegal mining are being undermined by some members of the governing party and they must be brought to book. The coalition reiterated its call for the government to declare a state of emergency, particularly in Galamsey endemic areas. And before we go, the government has taken delivery of its first shipment of the human papillomavirus, that's HPV vaccine. The initial delivery of 441,860 doses marks the beginning of a nationwide rollout aimed at reducing one of the most common and preventable cancers affecting women. Over the coming weeks, UNICEF, the lead agency, would be responsible for procuring and shipping these vaccines and expected to deliver more than 2.5 million doses of the HPV vaccine to Ghana. And that's it for the news on 3FM 92.7. My name is Beatrice Adu. Log on to 3news.com for more news. Good afternoon.